Meanwhile, Philadelphia raised the flag of Communist China at City Hall earlier this week. The event was co-organized by a group with ties to the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. It was supposedly intended to commemorate the communist takeover of China. The event was met with criticism and protests from human rights activists and lawmakers. One of them was Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano. He said it was a terrible idea. Senator Mastriano joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Senator. So first of all, why is this such a terrible idea? What message is it sending when we're raising the flag of a regime that is known for severe human rights abuses?
Yeah, on two levels. On the American level, United States, Philadelphia is a birthplace of liberty, where our Declaration and our Constitution were signed. Documents that are rooted in freedom and human dignity. The communist Chinese flag is the opposite of all of that. You think about the Chinese that fled after Mao took over China. Chiang Kai-shek's forces, and the irony is not lost on me. The Japanese begin the war at the Marco Polo Bridge in 1937. And who does 90% of the fighting? Chiang Kai-shek and the National Forces. Meanwhile, Mao runs off into the mountains and hides. He does a little bit, but hardly anything. And then he comes in when the nationalists have been, just bled by the Japanese, brutal fighting. Then he comes out and he takes advantage of the opportunity and crushes the country. Millions die between his takeover, the purges, the Cultural Revolution, just about 100 million dead. Now, if you're an ethnic Chinese American and you see that flag going over Philadelphia, that must be an insult to you, your parents, and your grandparents who suffered underneath the atrocities of Mao and his legions.
You know, Senator, I was talking to one guest yesterday. He's a researcher and a historian. He said this is akin to raising the Nazi flag. You just don't do it. He says there's nothing to be proud of 76 years of CCP rule.
I agree. What kind of madman thinks it's a great idea to raise a flag of a country that has 100,000 deaths on their hands, up to 400 million aborted babies, almost 500 million babies aborted with the one-child policy, a regime that continues to attack Christians, and arresting pastors, destroying churches, going after the Uyghurs, the Muslim majority out west, going after Falun Gong, any ethnic majority that are reaping the organs of many prisoners, such as Falun Gong, especially a billion-dollar organ industry they're doing. The mass surveillance of their country. We think about Tiananmen Square and the thousands of people that stood up for freedom and were killed or arrested. We don't even have the numbers on that. And that the idea that it's a great idea to raise the flag that symbolizes oppression and persecution and the opposite of the American ideals, is repugnant to me. And of all cities, Philadelphia should not be doing this.
And you know, Senator, how do you think the CCP is reacting to this if they're not celebrating already? I mean, there's something inherently wrong, I think, if your enemy or rival or adversary or whatever is celebrating something you're doing.
Yet Napoleon said, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. And clearly, the Chinese, they must be, the communists in Beijing must be laughing their pants off, because what kind of ridiculous messages to send? America, we say that we're the defender of freedom, we represent human rights and freedom of choice, and everything that communist China is not. And you look at this, and they must, when the leadership of the Communist Party in China looks over, they must see a bunch of useful idiots in Philadelphia, because who would do this? It is an insult to anyone of ethnic Chinese background that you would do this here, especially for people that fled the persecution, that seek asylum in America, that have raised a family and enjoy freedom, who still have relatives back home. And what an insult this is. And I just can't make this stuff up. To do it, of all places, I just did an event in Philadelphia on the 12th of September commemorating when our Congress in 1782 endorsed the Bible, the Aiken Bible. And we did that event there. Our history is rooted there. And just down the street, a week later, here they are raising that red flag that represents blood and murder and oppression and everything anathema to our ideals as Americans.
What do you say to that Philadelphia officials saying that this event is about promoting cultural exchange?
What a profoundly ridiculous, stupid, and naive statement. I would ask them to open up one history book or go to Google and simply type in list the atrocities of communist China since their takeover in 1947, and you could account for up to 100 million dead, and it goes on today. We think about COVID-19 in Wuhan. We don't even know what happened there. There's another cover up from communist China that affected the entire world. I think it's a great idea. While Tibetan monks are being thrown in jail, while Christian pastors are being arrested with underground churches, while Falun Gong followers are being in prison and having it ordered out to be sold on the international market. And this is a great idea to raise the flag of a country that represents all of that. No, thank you.
And Senator, you brought up a great point earlier. I mean, how does this affect America's credibility abroad in terms of its credibility on human rights? Does this promote the CCP sort of in a way for its global image?
You said it exactly right. This does endorse and promote the policies and ongoing activities of the Communist China Party within China. It acknowledges the fact that we're going to ignore the atrocities and overlook this, all in the goal of having better cultural ties. What does that even mean? I just don't know what's going on. You know, Philadelphia for 7 years is a Democrat leadership here. It's time for a change because these people don't know what they're doing. And this kind of idea is very reckless. It shows great weakness in America, and it undercuts everything that the Trump administration is trying to do to reassert American morals and ideals around the world, especially in China.
Okay, Senator, let me just ask you one more thing. What would you like to see done to increase understanding of this issue? What do you say to those who say this is just a flag?
Well, I think this helps. I'm thankful for your outlet here that you highlight the significance of this here, because, you know, many of the folks that we're talking about here suffered under the regime. You know, in World War II, the United States supported the nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek to fight the Japanese belatedly because the war had gone on since 1937. But the links and ties that America has with the nationalist Chinese, especially in Taiwan now, the legacy of Chiang Kai-shek, between the Flying Tiger volunteers, the Burma Road getting supplies in over to and the fighting that happened, we're looking at about 3 million casualties. We think about the sacrifice of those great men and women who lost their lives. We did a bombing raid on Japan called the Doolittle Raid in April 1942. Our bombers had to land in China, and 250,000 Chinese people gave their lives to smuggle out a handful of American pilots. And we need to remember the greatness and the great ties America once had with China. The current flag, the CCP flag, does not represent the values and ideals that our fathers and forefathers fought for. So the flag needs to come down, an apology needs to be issued, and we need to stand for all that is right and good and not push a flag that represents death.
Okay, Senator Mastriano, such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored. God bless you.